Welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. 1987, what a year for Canada. That's when the Royal Canadian Mint introduced a brand new coin, the loonie. Provincially, we had the launch of TV Ontario's French language channel, TFO, and here in Toronto, construction began on what was known as the Sky Dome. Now, let's see what ideas the MPPs were building on.
The next item on routine proceedings will be oral questions. The member for Nipissing.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are matters of fairly urgent and significant importance to the people of Ontario that involve the Premier. We were told he was going to be here. If he's not handy, I would ask unanimous consent if we could stand our questions down.
Government House Leader.
If I may, I'm informed that the Premier will be here in a few moments.
Do the leaders wish to?
I would just recall, Mr. Speaker, to the House Leader, the official opposition, and others, that in the past years, this has happened on occasion, particularly when honourable members are anxious to put a question to the Premier, and it's quite acceptable to all sides if the lead-off questions are stood down. They are special because they have an additional supplementary, and we could return to them at everybody's convenience, but I am told the Premier will be here in a moment.
Is it agreeable that the leaders' questions wish to be stood down? Agreed? Oral questions? The member?
I go so far down on my list. I mean, if the New Democratic Party wishes to start and give us our turn back, we'd be agreeable to that. I think it would be better if we recess for 5 minutes and start the clock again.
Order. 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 I've called for oral questions. I understand the leaders' questions have been stood down. I will now ask for further questions. The member for Lakeshore.
A question for the Minister of the Environment. We talked in our response to his statement about his previous commitments to excavation of the toxic waste dumps in the Niagara River, Mr. Speaker. Perhaps it would be helpful if the Minister would give us a clear, simple, maybe even brief explanation of why he was unable to include in this statement of intent a commitment to excavation of those dumps.
Minister.
Well, as the member would be aware from the statement that I made and subsequent statements that I have made in the press conference after the signing took place, as you know, when discussions were on some time ago, our goal at that time as a ministry was to have, and as a province, was to have in the agreement, most important of all, a specific timetable, that is, a specific number of years in which a specific percentage reduction would take place. Second, as I indicated to the member in the House, much more extensive monitoring than was called for in the previous drafts of this kind of agreement, so we could really pinpoint the sources and determine whether they were rising or falling. Third was a commitment to the long-term goal of the virtual elimination of persistent toxic substances from the waterway, which is known as the Niagara River. In addition to that, I talked about excavation of the sites. I indicated, I believe the member, I was sorry I didn't see her earlier during my remarks. I would have noted her presence, but the member, I believe, was there when I was speaking and would know that I made a reference to that at that time and indicated Ontario's position. The Americans have consistently, in the past, refused to give any consideration to excavation at all. That has been their position. Subsequent to that, we have a very substantial reference to it.
Perhaps the minister would allow the member to place a supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I think that kind of generalized statement is fairly typical of the agreement or statement of intent that we have before us today. And I'm trying to get some specific commitment from the minister as to what is different today from the situation yesterday. Can the minister tell this House whether today we are going to have any assurance that, in fact, the Hyde Park dump, to take that as an example, is going to be no longer a threat to the people who take their drinking water from the Niagara River? As the minister knows, one gush of dioxin and Lake Ontario is no longer available to us as a drinking water source. What assurance can you give us today that we are any closer to preventing that than we were yesterday?
Minister?
As the member would have noted, because he attended the press conference as well. Pardon? Yes, everybody's invited to the conference. As far as I know, everybody's invited to that particular conference, and the member was there herself. She took the initiative. Well, you went. Good for you.
Does the minister have a response?
I'm trying to get to the answer, Mr. Speaker. I'm trying to get to the answer here to the member. It was. Okay, yes, okay. At the press conference, Mr. Speaker, the member will have noted that I made no attempt to oversell any particular agreement and emphasize that what's as important as any agreement is the activities that will flow from that agreement. And it's my view, with the written commitment of the four parties on those items that I have discussed, that indeed we'll see the kind of activities that will have the effect of reducing contaminants to the river. I expect, and the member has stated in her response to me, that she will be ever vigilant, as will other members of the House, as will environmental groups and others, in ensuring that the provisions of that particular agreement are lived up to.
Information?
Order. The House Leader for the official opposition was concerned about the presence of the Premier. I indicated that he would be here soon. I am now informed that he is meeting with Thomas Niles. The meeting has gone over substantially, and he is not sure when he will be here. A number of my colleagues in the ministry are here, and I cannot tell you when the Premier will attend.
Rockland South.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the fact that the Premier is talking to Mr. Niles really relates to the question I'm about to ask, and as well fills us with dread, and I suspect 46,000 steelworkers in this province with dread, given the performance of the Premier in Washington.
And the question is to which minister?
My question is to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology. The Premier is reported in the January 27th edition of the Toronto Star, similar to what you're reported in the January 28th edition of the Globe and Mail, both advocating the same thing. To quote the Premier, he said after the meeting with Heinz that he hopes the dispute is resolved through industry and federal government talks aimed at getting Canadian steelmakers to voluntarily restrain their exports to the U.S. market, valued at more than $1.4 billion last year. You yourself echoed a voluntary approach, a point of view with respect to the steel issue. Senator Heinz has now tabled this legislation, proving for all Ontarians, and particularly for the 46,000 steelworkers, that our Premier regrettably failed in Washington to have any influence on Senator Heinz.
The question is?
He failed in Washington to have any influence on on the trade negotiator. Can you tell me in detail what proposals for voluntary restraints of Ontario steel exports to the United States, what proposals in detail did the Premier support and put to the American administration in Washington?
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, first of all, I do not feel that the Premier failed in Washington at all. I feel he was very successful.
Order.
And as I mentioned...
Minister, order. Minister, order. This is question and response period. I wish the members would allow any member to be heard. Minister, response.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as was also mentioned, we feel that the restraints, the voluntary restraints, have worked over the last 2 to 3 years, and there have been no problems. And we feel that this can possibly work again. That is not to say we are not looking at other possibilities of things that can be done.
Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are 46,000 jobs at stake in this province, and the minister responsible for trade has no idea about any specifics of the discussions in Washington. He can't tell us what specifically the Premier offered by way of voluntary restraint. Can the minister tell me then, since he doesn't know what went on in Washington, what consultations you or the Premier had with representatives of the steel industry or the steelworkers and the other unions representing steelworkers in this province prior to going to Washington and taking that position on their behalf?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned to the member, I believe he asked the same question a few days ago, and as I mentioned to him, meetings have been ongoing for some time now, for many months in the past, and they will be continuing to go on. There are other meetings scheduled in the future, and they have been going on as lately as last week.
Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, 46,000 jobs right across this province. You have yet to answer a specific question. 46,000 jobs are at stake in this industry. What meetings took place, where, and with whom? Do you understand the question? What meetings took place since last October, and with who, and what positions did you take at those meetings?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, as I mentioned to the member a couple of days ago, there have been meetings between the Ontario government, the federal government, the government of the United States. There have been meetings going on with the steel people. There have been meetings going on with union people, and we will work to see that those jobs are safeguarded in this great province.
New question. New question, the member for Brantford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question, in the absence of the Premier, is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs regarding the Vaughan land scandal. Minister, on December the 8th, in this House, you informed the House that staff had looked into the possibility of calling an inquiry in this matter and had been advised that by the town of Vaughan that no inquiry was necessary. As of yesterday, the OPP have raided both businesses and residences of practically everybody involved in this matter. Our question to the Minister is this. My colleague asked you in November if an investigation was being undertaken into this matter. You said that it was ongoing, despite the fact that your staff told my colleague from Brock that that investigation was completed on the 30th of September. A ratepayer in the town of Vaughan, Mr. Myers, now alleges that he brought his concerns about this sale to the attention of your colleague, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, last April. The question to the Minister is this. Now that the police are clearly taking this investigation very, very seriously, why did you and your colleague, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, fail to act on the ratepayers' concerns for a period of some 7 months?
That's right. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated back in December of 1986, that my ministry was conducting an inquiry, if you want to call it an inquiry, in the town of Vaughan concerning the sale of 2 parcels of land. At the time we were conducting the review, Mr. Speaker, we learned about the OPP investigation. And I said in this House, and I will repeat so that the member and the rest of this House hears it very clearly, that when the OPP entered the picture, my ministry pulled away from that review, and I said that I would report back to the House once the OPP review or inquiry was completed. Now, Mr. Speaker, as far as my colleague from the area, the Minister of University, responsible for universities and colleges. I am not aware, Mr. Speaker, of the dealings that went on back in April of 1986.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the minister will appreciate that the allegations being made by the ratepayers are very, very serious indeed. That a minister of the Crown was made aware of allegations of municipal corruption in the month of April last year, failed to act on them for a period of some months, when it is common knowledge, and the minister will agree, I'm sure it is common knowledge, that one of the councillors under investigation by the OPP was in fact your colleague's campaign manager. Now, my supplementary question to the minister is, in view of this very, very serious situation and the concern being publicly expressed about the conduct of ministers in the Crown in this respect, will you, as minister, request of the OPP that this investigation be broadened to look into the conduct of your colleague, or do we in the opposition have to make that request?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat it. This inquiry is in the hands of the OPP, and I have great confidence that they will conduct themselves and conduct this inquiry thoroughly, and I will await for their final report before the ministry will act.
Final supplementary.
Well, I'm afraid, Minister, through you, Mr. Speaker, that is simply not good enough. Your conduct in terms of sitting on the report through the fall is now in question. The conduct of your colleague is now clearly in question. Mr. Myers also tells us that in the month of September of last year, that the Premier was...
I think we've struck a nerve. Everybody the sales of don't get upset. Don't get
Order. Order. Point of order? Point of privilege.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
What's your privilege?
Mr. Speaker, my friend from Brantford has called into question my conduct. Mr. Speaker, he has, and I say advisedly, not properly represented the truth in this House.
Order. I think it's time that we're all just cooling down a little bit. I'm just somewhat concerned about the language used by the member for Brantford and now the language used by the Minister of Colleges and Universities. And I have to say the Honourable Minister is not putting forth a point of privilege. Member for Brantford, would you continue?
Mr. Speaker, through you, to the concerns of my colleague, these are not concerns originating with myself or the opposition. They are concerns originating with ratepayers in your constituency.
Order.
By way of supplementary to the minister, Mr. Speaker.
Directly through the chair to the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By way of supplementary through you, the Minister of Municipal Affairs has indicated to the House that the Minister of Municipal Affairs has indicated to the House that he was unaware of any of the activities or indeed the knowledge of his colleague in this regard. Will he further confirm that Mr. Myers, the ratepayer in question, spoke personally to the Premier about this last September and wrote to the Premier? And can the Minister indicate to the House his knowledge of that exchange of views and what bearing it may have had on your determination or lack of determination to press ahead with an investigation?
Hear, hear.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I can assure the member that I don't know if Mr. Myers spoke or wrote to the Premier of this province. I don't know. But I can assure the member that last June or July, if you can't recall the date or the exact month, I did speak to Mr. Myers, and I reported directly to my ministry, and this is when the inquiry was started. And that's all I know, Mr. Speaker.
New question? The member for York South? Oh, the member for Scarborough West?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Community and Social Services. Last December, sir, I warned that Canada pension increases for the disabled will be matched by reductions by your government in Gains D assistance. As the cases now start to come in, it is clear that you are indeed taking money out of the pockets of the disabled. Why do you think that Clive Langman in my riding should lose to your provincial treasury $135 of the $157 that CPP has given him in an increase? He has a total income of $422 a month. My question to the minister is how many thousand others are there like Clive that you are cheating out of their benefits? Can you tell me how many millions you will be adding to your treasury from their pockets?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the arrangements that have been provided for the disabled who are transferring to the federal program are twofold. First of all, that they can retain the benefits that they have if in fact they're going to drop below the value of the total package. And secondly, that they will have the option of staying on the provincial program as opposed to moving to the federal program. But the member surely understands that there is a mandatory agreement between the province and the federal government that all income has to be taken into consideration with respect to assistance programs. If in fact they switch, we have no choice.
Order. You can call it special assistance anything you want.
Keep your mouth shut, right? That's the bottom line.
I'll just wait. I'll just wait if you like wasting the time. Supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, you must remember, Mr. Speaker, that these are people who are disabled and by definition of Canada Pension will not work again. And I have one Michelle Osborne from Thorold, a victim of strokes. She has lost the entire $191 of Gains assistance she used to receive. This has reduced her $291 increase from CPP to just $100. There's no choice but to stay with the federal program because it is higher, sir. And she has also lost all her drug and medical benefits. I want to know, and you did not answer my question, sir, how many people are there? How many thousands are there in this position? How many are going to lose their medical benefits? And what is the dollar savings to your treasury for this move?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member seems not to choose to hear the response. The fact remains that the mandatory, not voluntary, agreement between the federal and the provincial government is that all sources of income have to be taken into consideration in order for someone to qualify for a benefit. I have no choice over that. The second point that I make, that each person who is faced with the decision to move from a provincial program to a federal program has the choice of picking whichever one is most financially beneficial to him or to her. Now, since each of the individuals will be making that choice and will also be eligible for continued benefits, if their total figure drops below what they were getting before, then there's no way we can possibly know what the total impact is going to be. We have to allow people the option of making that choice. That is in the process of happening right now.
Final supplementary.
This is truly outrageous. A month ago, these people all qualified for your program, sir. All qualified for topping up, which is totally in your jurisdiction. And it's up to you what levels you top it up to, and you know that. What has happened to your commitment to raise the disabled rates up to the rates of the elderly? Surely the federal government has just given you the perfect opportunity to raise those rates this time by the large increases they have given. Are you not ashamed that the Mulroney Conservative government is more progressive about incomes for the disabled than the supposed Reform Liberal government here in Ontario? Mr. Speaker, my question...
I've already heard about two questions.
My question, if I might, Mr. Speaker, because this is important, is today I noticed that we have an increase in your budget of $919 million, sir. $919 million, almost $1 billion, this billion-dollar smile of the treasurer. How much of that is going into your campaign war chests out of the pockets of these people?
Minute. Order. Minister.
Call him a Tory, Matt.
Mr. Speaker, the latter part of that question does not deserve a response. But I can...
Order.
I can advise you, Mr. Speaker. I can advise you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the honourable member, that the additional funds available to the Treasury have included a $92 million increase in my ministry's budget.
Order. Order. New question. Member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear an answer to the question from my colleague, and I think we're entitled to an answer.
How much?
We have a statement here of Ontario Finances, which has been issued by the government, which shows an additional revenue of $919 million. In lottery profits alone, an increase of $94 million. In lottery profits alone, to say nothing of personal income tax or corporate income tax. Can the minister tell us how much money is his ministry saving on the backs of those people who are choosing to take a Canada Pension disability, a Canada Pension, and are not able to get the money from gains? How much money are you saving? What is the money that's being saved?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think I clearly indicated that given the fact that each disabled person has the right to make a choice as to which program he wants to have support in, that there is no way of knowing how much money is going to accrue to this government. I can make very clear to him, however, that the range of other expenses to the disabled and many other people in the society are going to use up whatever number of extra dollars are available. There is no surplus, there is no savings.
Supplementary.
The minister, I'm sorry, the minister can't continue to play this game. He has to understand that when you give someone a choice between a program that pays $20 or $30 more and another one that pays $20 or $30 less, they are going to be forced into the federal program. That's the reality. Don't talk about the rich and poor having the same freedom to live under bridges, which is exactly the kind of freedom you're talking about. Let's talk about the reality of social choice for those people. What we are asking the minister today is to tell us what is the effect going to be on his budget with respect to the gains program, how much money is going to be saved on the backs of these people who are being deprived of money, which one would have thought of relatively parsimonious, to say nothing of incompetent government in Ottawa, has decided to provide them with. How much money are you saving by benefit of that program, instead of passing on that money to people who need that money every day of the week, and the minister knows that full well.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the fact that we are expending in excess of $92 million new dollars above and beyond the May budget would clearly indicate that no money is being saved. The money may be reallocated to other expenses, but no money is being saved. None.
Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker,
Final supplementary, the member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, we've seen some examples over the last number of weeks, and indeed even heard only today, of the government sensitivity with respect to the disabled. But what I want to say to the minister is this: First of all, it's not $92 million, it's $82 million, so you're $10 million off. And second of all, the programs which are contained in this release from the Treasurer have nothing to do, apparently, directly with the disabled. They have to do with a number of other problems which are in your ministry. What I would like to ask the minister specifically, we are talking about a reduction in benefits, a reduction in payments to people who are disabled, $100 minimum. I'd like to ask the minister what, and you must have calculations galore in the Dickensian calculus for which your ministry is so famous, precisely how much money are you saving on the backs of these disabled people?
For the sixth time.
Mr. Speaker, given the fact that each person can choose which program they want to support, and given the fact that they're obviously going to choose the program that is most beneficial to them, and given the fact that none of them will be worse off than they were before, there are no savings. And I would repeat again, the difference between the May budget and the present expenditures are $92 million. There are no savings. There are no savings.
Order. Order. New question, the member for York Centre.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's a loose nerve here somewhere, and there's a lot of nerve on the part of the government at this point in not coming forward with a straight answer, because the minister had to know back in November that the federal minister of Health and Welfare was about to make a change effective January 1. The Minister of Community and Social Services had to know that a number of the recipients of Gains D in Ontario would be affected negatively. The minister had to know that something had to be done about it. What is your interim plan, and how many people are going to be affected by it right now? It's a serious problem.
Minister?
People are losing on it. You think they're benefiting. What are you going to do about it?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, there was a clear understanding, as the honourable member had just expressed, that some people could have been negatively affected. Because of that possibility, I went to the Treasurer and to my Cabinet colleagues and got their support for two measures. The first one is that the benefit package which accrues to the disabled through the provincial program would continue for any person who would be negatively affected by the transfer. Secondly, I got the approval and the support that each disabled person could make the choice as to which program they wanted to stay on, in which case, no disabled person will be worse off today than they were in November.
Just in case the members are interested, it's time for a supplementary question, and the member for Parry Sound would like to
Mr. Speaker, through you to the minister. The minister may be interested to know that the drug cards, the drug eligibility cards that these people are receiving now, your ministry has made some commitment that they will grandfather those, but only up until the person turns 65 years of age. That does not apply to any new applicants for your program, and you're still making these people choose whether they want the federal program or your program. Will you not give this House today an assurance that nobody will lose those benefits, the prescription drug privileges or any benefits that they have been entitled to under the Gains D program up until now? Yes or no, Mr. Minister, today, right now?
Mr. Speaker, the obvious reason as to why the benefit under the present program will continue until age 65 is because at age 65 they'll qualify for the benefit as a senior citizen anyway. Secondly, I have already indicated to you that anyone who is currently on the provincial program will have their benefits continued. If in transferring to the federal program, they will be negatively affected. What can be clearer than that?
No,
Point of order.
Point of order?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I wonder if, I'll be very quick, while we were having the hassle about the Premier was here and he wasn't here and he was coming and he isn't coming and he's afraid to come and now he isn't coming, I suggested that if the Democratic Party wished to start off, providing we could pick up a question, that we would agree to that. And I wonder, Speaker, if we could pick that up now.
Well, that's entirely up to the House. I was just going by the standing orders. They say we rotate, and actually that's where we've started. But if you agreed to pick up a question, point of
Speaker, what does a member do when he feels that the truth has not been spoken by a minister? We know that the disabled are not included.
Order. 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 Would the honourable member take his seat? Order. I'd like to remind some honourable members, one in particular, that there have been many occasions when I've received notes from members about wasting time in the question period. Order. The standing order states, Standing Order 30A states that you do have an opportunity if you're not satisfied. New question, the member for Burlington South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Skills Development. Minister, the Older Workers Help Centre in Lindsay, Ontario is being run by two people who have been working there without pay for the last 6 months because they care about the program that has been working there, even though the minister so far has refused to provide any of the $27,000 approved for their operation last spring. The minister had no difficulty announcing to the media and the Peterborough Examiner about such funding. Could the minister please tell this House when he is going to start showing the same kind of dedication and commitment to this program that the workers up in Lindsay are showing? When are you going to start taking responsibility for your ministry and forward those funds to the Lindsay Centre?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my friend knows very well that the Unemployed Help Centre program, which was set up by the previous government, provided for a 2-year review. In fact, my friend from Brantford, who now spends most of his time in the sewer, was for a time minister there. From where you're sitting, you should hold your nose.
Order. Order.
Let him hold his nose. That's a good point. Let him hold his nose. That's it.
Order. Order. Minister, response.
Mr. Speaker, that review is now complete, and shortly I will be announcing our ministry's intentions and the government's intentions with respect to unemployed help centres. But my friend should know because he has studied these matters, that the regime governing unemployed help centres is that there is an equal commitment from the Ministry of Skills Development and this government and the community. And when that equal funding is in place, the help centres generally proceed. But it's the support from the community that calls out the support from the government.
Supplementary? Point of order?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be the one who does this, but I heard the minister say that a member of this House spends most of his time in the sewer. That may be parliamentary some places, but it should not be parliamentary here, and the minister should withdraw.
Order. 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 If I could have the attention of the members, I know I'm sorry to have to... Order. I understand the member for Oshawa heard I suppose, what the minister said. I'm not sure. If that's the... Order! Order. I'll ask the minister if he says that to withdraw it.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I have...
Order. 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 I really would like to hear whether it was said or not. I couldn't hear it before. Minister,
Mr. Speaker,
if you said it, would you withdraw?
I must admit that I do not keep an accurate record of where the member from Brantford spends all his time, and on that basis, I'll withdraw the comment.
That's order. Order. That sounded like a Churchillian withdrawal, didn't it? The supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, I fear that the minister is having trouble keeping track of his public statements as well, because in spite of his response, I remind him that he in fact told the Peterborough Examiner that the Lindsay Help Centre would be getting those funds. And quite frankly, you tell Olivia Hotzner, the woman who's been providing free service to that community for 6 months based on your promise. She's been driving 28 miles round trip every day of the week at her expense for the gas and the mileage and the time, based on your promise, Minister. And I'm sure she'll be quite encouraged to learn that you were more concerned by responding to something to the member for Brantford
and the supplementary
than to take the serious concerns in that
supplementary.
Lindsay. My supplementary, Mr. Speaker, is, will the minister advise, now that Lindsay Help Centre has received nothing, that the Peterborough Senior Help Centre is closed, that London, Niagara, and Hamilton have now been forced to borrow money to meet payroll? When are you going to honor a commitment to older unemployed workers in Ontario? When are we going to see that commitment from your government? When is it going to be a priority? And when is Lindsay going to get their funding?
Mr. Speaker, there were a number of supplementaries there. And I just want to point out that I didn't want to show any respect for Ed Norton or all the other people that work hard in sewers. But I say to my friend, who is so concerned, that I will be making an announcement about unemployed help centers within 10 days, I would suspect. I tell my friend that there have been problems in community support in the two help centers that he's mentioned in Peterborough and Lindsay, and there have been other staffing problems. And if he simply suggests that I ought to close my eyes to these problems and provide funding, notwithstanding that there have been problems that have been brought to my attention, I say to him, that's not the kind of management that our government likes to champion, and that's why I think he's over there and we're over here.
New question, the member for Etobicoke.
I have a question for the Attorney General. If you, Mr. Minister, were to receive a letter from the Government of Ontario offering to commit on its behalf a startup grant for a particular project that you were in charge of, would you not consider that a pledge that you could take to the bank and borrow money on for your particular project?
Mr. Speaker, as Attorney General, I'm not able to give legal advice to private citizens.
The
supplementary.
The Attorney General, judging from past history, the Attorney General doesn't seem to be able to give very good advice to the government either. But if the Premier has stated in this House that there was in fact no contract between the Government of Ontario and Mr. Abe Schwartz, the President of Exploricom. And yet the Attorney General will be aware that on May the 28th, he wrote, "Dear Abe, I am pleased to commit on behalf of the Ontario government a startup grant of $17.5 million. Would the minister not agree that this is an affirmative response to what is obviously an application for money by Mr. Abe Schwartz, And would the Attorney General not agree that this is placing a contractual obligation of some sort on the Government of Ontario?
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the second question asked, I don't agree.
New question. The member for Cochrane South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Back to the Minister for Trade, who has a responsibility of 46,000 steelworkers in this province, in the steel industry of this province. We would like to know specifically what suggestions your Premier, our Premier, had in Washington with respect to voluntary restraints on steel exports to the United States. What specific commitments did he make, and are you saying that he consulted with the steel industry in making those submissions?
The Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I am saying is that the Premier was to Washington. He had some very interesting discussions. He put forward the points on behalf of Ontario and the steel industry here, and I think he did an excellent job in doing that.
Supplementary.
On intergovernmental relations, this government has a clean slate. You've lost every single one, including the environmental one today. You're totally useless. Your Attorney General is useless.
Order.
46,000 steelworkers' jobs are in jeopardy.
Order. 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 I think it's order. Order. I think it's time that the members start thinking a little more about decorum. Order. I'm speaking to all members. It's time to think about a little more decorum. And I'd ask the member who's going to place a supplementary to place it through the chair. If he wishes to point at the chair. Supplementary.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister of Trade. When he was willing to sell out the lumber industry, he had studies that showed that between 500 and 1,000 jobs in Northern Ontario would be lost. When he's willing to sell out the steel industry, what studies have you done to show what jobs will be lost in Ontario as a result of your sellout, unilateral, on behalf of the steelworkers of the province?
This month and any month before January.
Minister.
I think I'm just reminded by the member from Cochrane North that there was more lumber. I'd take advice from him any day because he's one of the best ministers we ever had.
Order. Order.
I can also.
Order. With the order. 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 New question, the member for Essex North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture and Food. The Minister be aware that the City of Thorold is proposing to rezone approximately 2,200 acres of agricultural land to industrial and commercial. The Minister of Municipal Affairs has indicated in a letter dated December the 17th to the Chairman of the Regional Municipality of Niagara that he supports this proposal and he will be asking the Minister of Agriculture and Food to endorse this same proposal. I would like to ask the Minister what his position is on having this agricultural land become commercial or industrial.
Minister?
Well, when any of my colleagues confront me with land severances or trying to use agricultural land for other purposes, they come up against a pretty tough customer.
Hear, hear. It's true.
When
That's right.
when that proposal comes before my ministry, you can be sure that my ministry will be commenting in compliance with the Foodland Guidelines, and the Foodland Guidelines state quite emphatically that where other lands can be used, then the agricultural land must be kept for agricultural purposes.
Supplementary.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear the minister's remarks that he is really in favor of preserving agricultural land. And the fact of the matter is that in that area and across this province, there's a lot of other property that is maybe unsuitable for agricultural and be more suitable for industrial and commercial development. I'd just like the minister to, being he raised the issue on the provincial Foodland Guidelines, that he'll assure us that he will not support this proposal from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and also explain to the Minister of Municipal Affairs how important it is to preserve agricultural land in this province.
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Municipal Affairs agrees with me that wherever possible we should be preserving agricultural land. We will certainly have a look at the proposal when it comes before my ministry, and we will be commenting, and I will be consulting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs about the matter. But we do try to preserve agricultural land wherever possible, and that's the reason the Foodland Guidelines are there.
New question, the member for Sarnia.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask a question of that tough customer, the Minister of Agriculture, but I feel compelled to ask the question of another tough minister, the Minister of Industry and Trade. Well, I'd love to, but I have to move to your colleague today. My question for the Minister of Industry and Trade. Mr. Speaker, my question for the minister is to inquire as to some of the conversations that went on in Washington with respect to the Auto Pact. As the minister is well aware, there are very few items that ever reach a degree of unanimity in this House. This is one issue in which all parties on all sides of the House are in agreement that we want the Auto Pact retained in its present form. Could the minister give us some indication of some of the conversations that were held between the Premier and those to whom he came in contact with in Washington, and his impressions of those conversations with the intent of preserving the status quo in the Auto Pact?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I have to agree with the member. I also took part or was here for the discussion that was put forward by the Leader of the Opposition concerning the importance of keeping the Auto Pact off the table. And I can assure you that many of the discussions that the Premier had while he was in Washington concerned this matter, and he put that point across very strongly.
Minister?
Well, the minister is aware. Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. The minister is aware that his ministry conducted some studies with respect to potential, quote-unquote, job losses that may occur as a result of some form of free trade agreement. Would the minister share with this House any studies or any numbers that he might have with respect to potential job losses if, in fact, the Auto Pact is requested to be renegotiated or withdrawn by the U.S. government?
Minister?
Speaker, as the member knows, our ministry did a great number of studies, and those studies, I understand, have been released or will be released for anyone that would like them, and I will inquire in this particular matter, and if you haven't already received them, make it available to you if it's there.
New question, the member for Hamilton East.
I have a question of the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations. The Minister will be aware of the concerns I've brought to him about the regulation change that we just had in terms of bridging and private pension plans if they're going to apply for the CPP early retirement benefit. The new regulation states that a bridging supplement may not be reduced if a person is entitled to receive an early retirement benefit under the CPP. It does not say, as it does in the Quebec legislation, that a bridging supplement may not be reduced if the person is receiving an early retirement CPP benefit. This distinction is crucial, and in our questions to the Superintendent of Insurance, the office, he will know that we have not been able to get a clear answer on that. Can the minister tell us if he's looked into the matter and if he's prepared to make the changes necessary in the regulations?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for the question. He's right. He broached the subject with me yesterday, and I'm looking into it. But I just wanted to say that it is the intent of this government that those people that take early retirement are not in any way put in a negative position because of that provision, and we're going to make provisions to see that that doesn't happen.
Supplementary?
Well, I thank the minister if he's telling me that he's prepared to make the changes if necessary. He must be aware that a large number of the unions and a number of individuals who are facing retirement don't know whether they can make the move now if they're already on an early retirement through a private plan, whether or not they can apply for CPP without the loss of some of that private plan. And it does seem to be a potential loophole. We hear even from the Pension Commission in that particular regulatory change, and I hope that he does take action to close that hole very quickly.
Minister?
Speaker, I want to assure the members of this House that it is our intent to make sure that any employee that takes early retirement is not in any way put into a negative position because of those provisions.
New question. The member for Sudbury East.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the caretaker of the swamp, the Minister of Labor.
I knew that was going to go.
You got him.
You got him.
The swamp is a very nice place.
Does the member have
The swamp is a very pleasant natural habitat.
Does the member have a question, and to which minister?
Minister of Labor, pardon me, Mr. Speaker. On May the 22nd, 86, there were orders issued at...
Order? Order?
A point
just
of order.
Just a moment. Point of order?
Speaker, I understood it was the official opposition's turn to answer a question. Ask a question.
Order. With respect, my eyes go in the rotation. I didn't see anyone up, so I took the member for Sudbury East.
If you're asleep at the switch, that's not my fault.
So, once again, the
Minister of Labor.
East, a question, and to which
I
minister?
can't even hear myself think, Mr. Speaker. On May the 22nd... On May the 22nd, Mr. Speaker, 86, there were orders issued at Lake Ontario Steel Company in Whitby for silica and lead assessments to be complied with by June 13, 86. These orders were not complied with by June 13, 86. The inspector visited the plant on January the 16th, 87, and noted that and I'm quoting, the lead and silica assessment required by the Ministry of Labor are not yet completed. 8 months later, I would like to remind the Minister that lead and silica were designated in 1981 and 1983. Could you tell me why this company has been allowed to violate the Act with impunity, and why? And have you requested a special action request as of yet?
Minister?
Well, to the permanent keeper of the quagmire, I'm not aware of the specific instance, Mr. Speaker, but I'm very pleased that the honourable gentleman has addressed this question, because it shows that the compliance dates that we've begun to put on these matters are bringing these matters to a head. I couldn't agree more with my honourable friend, Mr. Speaker, when he points out that the lead and silica regulations have been in place for a long time, and yet apparently this company is not yet in compliance with them. I will check immediately into the individual circumstances, and I would only say, while I'm on my feet in answer to the other part of my honourable friend's question, that a special action request under Section 37 of the Act would be initiated, if considered to be appropriate, by the inspector who's involved in this investigation.
Supplementary?
I find it difficult to understand how the minister can say this is coming to a head under his new policy, since this occurred last June, and it's now 8 months and nothing has happened. But since he's so sure that these things are working, The supplementary is, to use just another example, I want to bring the minister up to date on the situation at Wafer Board in Timmins, which started for regulation on July of '85. And in your letter to me of January 8th, '87, you state that on July 7th, '86, an order was issued to develop a control program for isocyanides. To date, that program, that control program is not in place. Can you tell me when you're going to force the company, who's been required now for over a year, when you're going to take action to force them to comply and have that control program in place?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I believe that the honourable gentleman, that there has been a concern in terms of Wafer Board as to whether they're in compliance. I do understand that notice of non-compliance has been issued and a special action request has been prepared. And certainly I think, Mr. Speaker, that the honourable gentleman would expect that in some instances, where the orders that our ministry write are not complied with, and it's not at the end of the day we are not always able to force compliance in the first instance, that we will then take further action. And in the Wafer Board situation, which is again dragged on for far too long, I note that the honourable gentleman acknowledges that further action is being taken, but we intend to get that company into compliance because of this matter is a very serious one at that company, as at so many others.
Time for oral questions has expired. Point of order?
Yes.
Member for Sudbury?
Speaker, in the past, we've had occasions where a PC member has been recognized by you, and then you've noticed that the member from Brampton stood up and have insisted that under the orders of rotation, 29-6, that the Brampton member be allowed to pose his question in following the normal order of rotation. And I would like to make the point here, Speaker, that I believe there's been an error in the decision you made.
Order. On the same point of order?
On the same point of order. I understand the Speaker's difficulty with these things, but surely the opposition, the official opposition, has to agree that they have to stand up in their place so Mr. Speaker can recognize someone. No, you weren't standing. God baloney.
I've listened very carefully, and I will certainly try to make certain that the standing orders are carried out as set out by all and approved by all members.